Thank you. Good evening, everyone. I'd like to welcome you all to this regularly scheduled meeting for the Planning Commission for Tuesday, January 28th, 2025. I'd like to open the meeting at 7:30, and may we please stand for the Pledge of Allegiance. Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. May I have roll call, please?
Mr. Carpenter.
Here.
Mr. Fitzer.
Here.
Mr. Kucera.
Here.
Mr. Nushai.
Here.
Ms. Redmond.
Here.
Mr. Scott.
Here.
Mr. Solomon.
Here.
Mr. Tinlin.
Here.
Thank you.
Thank you. Agenda item number 4 is approval of tonight's agenda. Does anyone have any changes, additions, subtractions, anything? My question is, maybe Nick could answer. Usually the first meeting of January, we have election of officers. Is that not on the agenda for some reason? Or should we not do that? Or
So again, in the report, I did mention that due to the vacancy and there's still a member that hasn't been reappointed,
Right.
that it might just not be the best opportunity to do it now with 7 technical.
yeah, it's
Extended
usually
board
not the
members.
first January meeting.
Right.
So if we can put it off, yeah.
Yeah, I
Fine.
think it'd just be appropriate to maintain the current positions until the board's filled. I believe it's the directive that it should be done shortly.
Okay, I'd agree with that then.
Okay.
Okay, does anybody else have any changes? Otherwise, I'll approve the agenda as it stands now. And we'll move on to agenda item number 5, which is approval of the regular meeting minutes from January 14th.
I will make a motion to approve the regular meeting minutes from January 14th, 2024.
Second.
2024?
Oh, it does say 2024,
That's what it
but
says on
sorry,
it.
2025.
It's
catch.
a misprint on it.
Yeah.
Well, we'll make sure that's changed.
Okay, if you change the 4 to a 5, I'll take roll call on it, please.
All right. Mr. Fitzer.
Yes.
Mr. Kucera.
Yes.
Mr. Dushai.
Yes.
Ms. Redmond.
Yes.
Mr. Scott.
Yes.
Mr. Solomon.
Yes.
Mr. Tinlin.
Yes.
And Mr. Carpenter.
Yes.
Thank you.
Thank you. Agenda item number 6 is public discussion. Is there anyone from the public wishing to opine on anything, either on tonight's agenda or off? Doesn't make any difference. If you have any opinions, if you please come to the microphone and give us your name and address. We'll allow you approximately 3 minutes.
I just need a second.
Okay. Well, I didn't mean 3 minutes to get there.
It took 2 seconds.
Okay.
The discussion items, are you going to open them up again after we talk about other?
I can
things?
open public at any time. If I see as the people who have questions out there, yeah, just raise your hand, I'll open it up for you. Anyone else in public? Seeing none, I will then close public discussion. And we'll move on to agenda item number 7. This is consideration of a site plan amendment application for 220 South Main Street, which is the House of Barbecue. And Mr. Tangeri, I hope will start us out through this,
Nick's introducing.
or Nick will do it.
All right. Thank you. So we are here tonight to review the site plan amendment application for 220 South Main Street House of Barbecue. Included in the packet for your review was their initial amendment application from their first time coming in front of you on July 23rd, as well as their most recent approval letter from, that was October of 2024, giving them their temporary approval to come back to this point to review how things have gone. Also was a breakdown of the complaints that we've received regarding the smoking device that is operated on site. And so all of that was provided for your review and to discuss tonight to see if the initial site plan amendment application from him to approve the location and timing would be acceptable. And so I think we're all aware that this is something that we've talked about a handful of times. I think we're all looking to close this out and have a solution going forward for everyone. And so I think a lot of it determines on how the planning commission discusses this evening. There's really not much background else that we can provide outside of what's in the packet.
Nick, for a point of clarification.
Absolutely.
That table that you provided says violation and then details. Is it a complaint or a violation? Can you kind of clarify?
The similar word, it was just like their complaint that we've received. I guess technically, if you want to say it's a violation, I probably should have changed it to complaint, but it is
Okay.
on there.
Because
Yeah.
I guess there was some, predetermined
Yes.
approval process, right? So
Right.
we had a couple
And-
contingencies, so I didn't know if it was a violation of one of those or
Right, and so I guess
still just the smoke.
it's not a violation that was issued to them. It was just a complaint about the smoker being operated. And so on the third and fourth pages of that, there were some photos that were received along with those complaints that we wanted to provide to you just for a visual aid on what's going on there.
So, I'm sorry, just to ask you one more question.
Mm-hmm.
So there are dates provided, and I apologize, I didn't go into the calendar and look. Were those assumption that there was a complaint simply because there was excessive smoke, or was it because it was a day that wasn't?
Yeah, so my interpretation of that is that the complaint, the date on there is the date that we received the complaint, and so it's not always the date of when it was being used.
Okay.
So to nail down when isn't always the case. I think there were a couple times that it was provided on, shared what date it was being operated, but I did not.
Nope, that's
Have
fine.
that information.
I appreciate the clarity.
The no barrier placed is referring to the fencing.
Correct.
Okay.
And in my time traveling there, it's been up there, and so it could have been one of those things where the smoker was removed from the site for an event and then was placed back there, and the barriers wasn't put back to where it should. But from my rationale is that the barrier has not been an issue consistently.
And the small smoker is gone
Yes.
by this point.
There's signage on the fencing. Hot, do not touch.
Yes, there's caution signage.
Okay. That was one of the requests we had.
Correct.
He moved on to propane startup, which I think is probably going to be a big help rather than starting out with newspaper or cardboard. That should cut it down.
Correct.
What we did the last time was that we gave him a conditional time here to try this to see if any further complaints came in. And I don't see it in front of me exactly what he's seeking. He's seeking unlimited use of this, right?
Yes, and then so if you do recall that from the first time this was presented, there's been a conditional approval to maintain the 2 days as previously approved in the first site plan of 22, and then there's also a period where there was a flex day that he could use at his discretion, and the last approval that the planning commission did was to give him the ability to use it as needed to see how that went, and so that's where we're at now. So the last conditional approval allowed for use as needed for the business operations. But again, the original site plan approval was for the 2 days a week.
Limited, yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. Any questions for Nick?
I'm not going anywhere, so you can come up with questions throughout.
What, I think my main concern is the smoke. That's the biggest issue we have here. And over the past few months, it's been cold out there, and people keeping their windows closed, and how much you're using it. I hate to give you unlimited access, and then when the weather comes up and it gets spring, it gets warm, and the windows are open, then we're going to end up with the back same problem here. So I don't know how we feel up here about that.
I agree completely. It's not a
Hate to
use.
keep you on hold, but I think you can see our point, you know.
The stacks can always go higher. So that, matches the surrounding barbecue places in the area. But that doesn't seem like a concession that's,
Would the applicant like to answer some questions?
do you want to open it up to public comment or?
Well, let's hash it between
Okay.
ourselves first. And we'll,
Hello.
yeah, you see our problem, obviously, right? I know what you're doing, you're making smoke, and you have to do it to run your business, but we can't annoy the neighborhood with it. And I don't know, my best consideration now is to give you another couple of months at it, trying it. I'm just really afraid that if we approve you for full-time right now, that this is going to come back and bite us in the spring. Can you see that happening?
I mean, I couldn't, anything's possible, you know? Yeah, all I can do is just keep coming and doing what I can do, you know? If it continue to be a burden, you know, I may have to move from Clawson. You know, I came here with intentions just to do what I do best, and that's serve my food to the people, you know?
There's no,
I'm not.
no possible way of adding a chimney to the side of the building?
No, we can't. I don't have that in my budget. Like, if you guys are willing to pay for it, yeah, I definitely will do whatever it takes. You know, I don't have it. These are the harshest months I've been in. It's been super slow. You know, I don't have alcohol, so I don't get the luxury to just waste money like that. I wish I had it, I would, but I don't have it, you know. So, you know.
I'd like to work with you as much as we can here, and my opinion, unless somebody else has another point of view, I would think, let's try it again. Let's give them another couple of months. I'm afraid to agree to this until the weather turns. That's pretty much where I stand on it. I'm afraid we're going to get people in here again.
Yep. So I agree, because it's inherent in the nature, right? You're a wood-burning smoker. So I'm in the camp, the needs of the many outweigh the needs of the few. So I understand you're trying to run a business, but at the end of the day, I'm side with the neighbors. And the only thing we really have done is move the location of the smoker. So I'd be uncomfortable until we get to the spring and see what we can do. And I did look at, we don't have a particle order or law or ordinance for this type of smoking. That's wrong. I was one of the original commissioners on my first term that voted yes. So I apologize to the owner and the public, because we didn't understand what was going to happen here. But now we know, right? So I'd be very uncomfortable of just giving conditional approval for full use. I'd rather have you come back again and take a look.
And how well did you make out during the Christmas season? You did a lot of...
We did a lot of catering, we did a lot of doing whole dinners for families and stuff.
And the
so I had to
hours?
smoke tons of turkeys.
The hours that we allowed you worked out okay? And
Yeah, because you gave me unlimited. You gave me unlimited. So,
For that
you know,
holiday, yeah.
So would you be comfortable, like, maybe guesstimating how many days a week you were smoking around that time? Because, I mean, we got one complaint a month. So I'm of the perspective that, you know, we've asked you to come in.
Yeah.
We've tried to work with the residents. I feel like you've been accommodating as much as possible. I mean, I would like to at least extend another conditional approval to keep him in business, doing what he's trying to do.
yeah, because like I just, the CFOs of Stellantis came in my building and they wanted me to do like a catering for their staff, you know, but they wanted to try the food first. And I just got that contract, you know, so, you know, that goes back to the whole stipulation thing, you know. Had I had a stipulation in place, I wouldn't be able to cook for these people, you know, because I don't have, this is another thing that you guys probably don't know, I don't have refrigeration in this building, you know, so I can't cook a bunch of food and just put it to the side, you know, it's no way. I don't have walk-in coolers, I got stand-up coolers, that's all I have, so all my food is fresh, you know, I got fresh vegetables, fresh fruit, I don't have a lot of pantry for dry goods. So everything, I'm out shopping every day. You know, there's no storage in this place, you know, so that got a lot to do with everything as well. You know,
Is it intentional by you because you want fresh?
no, that's how the building design. It's
Well, we
never.
didn't make the building.
I know. I didn't say you made the building. I'm just telling you that's how the building was made. I didn't make the building either. You know.
Okay, so it's not capable of putting
No.
a freezer or fridge inside of it?
No, there are freezers and fridges, but there's limited spacing for freezers and fridges. There's not a lot of space. There's like, the way the place is designed, it wasn't designed for a restaurant. They made another building into a restaurant, but they didn't think clearly when they did the design of the restaurant.
I think that's a little bit beyond the scope of us and
You said it's beyond the scope.
of the planning commission, not you.
Oh.
Obviously, it affects your day-to-day, but
Yeah.
we don't have a control on that.
Yeah, I don't think we can go that deep into it. I don't know what the commission's feeling. I'd entertain a motion if so inclined. I would lean towards extending it as it stands now for another, 2 months, 3 months?
Yeah, I just want to make a point to say that you did say you were opening things up for public comment on agenda
will.
items.
I
So
will.
I didn't know if you wanted, do you want to vote first or open it up first?
I will before we vote.
Okay,
But it might be interesting as the public knows which direction we're heading in.
Oh.
If we had a motion,
I'll make a motion to extend this conditional approval I mean, I don't know if 6 months is sufficient enough, because then we're still only in June, but I would say 6 months.
Support?
We do first
Motion.
meeting of June? Maybe.
pardon?
I'm sorry?
Can we do the first meeting of June? That will make more sense.
Yep.
Did someone second? You seconded? I could amend, sure. Do you still
Also
support?
support.
June 1st. Okay, now before I pull a vote, something, Nick?
Yeah, I just think that's a pretty generous sample size. I think we kind of all have an idea of where everything's going. I mean, if that's the way the commission wants to go, that's the way. But I mean, if it's something in the spring, I think obviously the winter months, people don't have their windows open. We don't want to keep having to come back in 6 months giving conditional approvals. I think everyone here wants to have a solution that can make everyone at least happy to continue moving on with their lives. And so
Right.
to every 6 months coming back for a conditional approval where, hopefully we can get a good sample size in another 2 or 3 months, and at that point make a determination would be
2 or
another
3 months
avenue.
isn't going to work. We'll still be in the winter.
3 months from now, would be April 22nd. I mean,
I think I'll stick with my motion at this point.
Yeah, we have to wait till the weather warms up because it's not a true equal ground test if we're doing it in the winter months composed of the spring and summer.
And truly, this, it was agreed upon when they came here that was, again, not a use that was allowed. We did, as Mr. Tinlin say, accommodate that use with specific restrictions. So in order to extend those restrictions, we've gotten continuous complaints and people that can't even open their windows. So and there's been lots of opportunities or ideas that have been shared back and forth, that this is what we're settling on. I feel like we need sample for the summer months.
and I'm sorry, did you say a date in the motion?
I amended to the first date
First
in
meeting.
June.
First meeting, okay, that is June 10th, just for everyone's
Sure.
awareness.
June 10th?
So, okay. So that motion was conditional approval until June 10th of 2025, when we'll come back again.
Yeah, I extended
Okay.
whatever
Okay.
original we had.
Got it, okay. I just want to make sure I got that correctly. Thank you.
Thanks.
Right, so I got a motion, I got support. Before I pull a vote, I will open this up to public comment. If anyone from the public here has any comments or opinions on how we're doing, okay, please come to the microphone. Evening.
Hi there, Shawnee Kunith, 54 West Tacoma. I brought some pictures along just to try to give you the snapshot that you guys are kind of asking for. Is it okay if he shows them to you?
Sure.
Is that appropriate? I've blown up some of the
I
pictures
think we
so
have
that
one in
you
our
guys
packet,
can
too.
see one sample. You guys are asking about, getting samples.
We do have these included in our packet, just.
Okay,
one
so
for
you saw
clarity's
The
sake.
same one?
you saw the one with the fire coming out the side then?
Yeah.
Okay, because I was under the impression that even on the original site plan, that it said that the fire would be completely contained. And you can actually see there's multiple pictures there and that was from December 5th, and it's just trying to show you, I'm trying to show you smoke. I'm trying to tell you a story that I'm having a difficult time doing. I know what exposure to that kind of smoke does. And so I'm just trying to help you guys see what it is that we're actually going. You can see that the smoke is going directly west, which the person that was here the last time I was here said Smoke didn't go to the west. So you can actually see that on the pictures. That's part of the issue.
These are all in our packet.
Yeah,
I
page 10 of our
really,
packet there.
I really think that, you know, integrity is what you do when no one's looking. And, you know, the business owner was allowed to submit a 16-minute video of, you know, blue skies and, you know, birds chirping. And I wasn't actually able to open it. I'm not sure if any of you were able to open it. But it's not, his video is not what's represented here. And so, you know, looking at this snapshot, this is actually what we are being exposed to. And this is wrong, you guys. If this is the best that the business owner can do, if this is the best, it's not good enough, honestly. I understand having a business. I understand making a living. I get it. But the fact that there's flames coming out the side of it, and on the site plan it said that it was supposed to be contained, I mean, I think that says a lot about who you're dealing with here.
I think we're trying to get to this. I think the flames that you see out, when I cook things, it's when you start it up. You're going to put a bunch of newspaper in there, you're going to get a lot of flame, obviously, until you get the coals going, then it dies down. And I think he's helped us out on that. He's changed to propane, which is going to slacken that flame. That, to me, is a big improvement. The
I think the
exhaust is the
fact
problem
that,
we're dealing
oh, I'm
with.
sorry, I can't hear you, sir.
The exhaust is the problem that we're dealing with,
And I think those pictures kind of show that
yeah,
the exhaust is still the problem.
right.
So is the flame coming out at all times, or is this flame, because in the pictures I saw, it was hard to see that it was actually coming out of the smoker.
Yeah.
And that is, to me, a huge safety concern.
I sent
fence or
video
not.
too, but Nick mentioned
Yeah.
that due to technical difficulty, he wasn't able to put the video in the information that you got. But I mean, I have video to all that too.
No, the glow, is that from flame, actual
That's flame coming out the side.
No, the glow that's around that is hard to tell. I mean, this was not included in our packet, and I don't
Yeah.
know. I mean, at least not to this extent where you can see the
It's not
flame coming out.
It's not behind any kind of fencing,
Yeah.
and the flame is coming out. That was December 5th on a
December
Saturday.
5th, or is it December 12th? Or is that another date?
I think that one was from December 5th.
Okay.
If it was a Saturday, sorry, I don't have a calendar.
That's okay.
right in front
Just
of
in
me.
our packet, it says December 12th photos, so I wasn't sure if it was in addition to December 12th or,
It probably was.
okay.
There were multiple dates in December that I sent things on. I don't mind, not at all. No.
You can.
So, you know, I'm here again today to ask for your help. I need somebody to help me.
I think that's what we're attempting to do tonight.
I appreciate it, and I completely agree with you guys that we're in the middle of the winter months. You know, this got started in April of last year. That's when the fire alarm went off, the smoke detector went off inside my house. So yes, about April is kind of when it starts to really ramp up with his use and things like that. You know, I feel like if there's some sort of commercial equipment that could be used to allay this, I see it as a have to. I mean, this is the cost of doing business. This is the cost of being a decent person and not doing this. They knew that this was going to happen. You know, and it's happened. Here we are.
Well, and I will say that in all my research, looking for an ordinance, I was unable to find cities that allow for outdoor smokers outside of Texas. The flame is an issue. I forget how many feet away from the sidewalk. So the fact that there's open flame coming out the sides of it, and we have a Dario that's 2 buildings away, I don't know if that's because the latch was left open, or if that's something that is a flame coming out during all operation. But I do think that's an issue, and I don't think the fire department would disagree with that.
Yeah.
So,
I don't think we want to go into that depth. We don't want to shut the business down. We've
I
approved the
don't-
business.
I don't
I
want that
never said
either, but
that.
I think if there's a commercial blower
Right.
or a commercial air filter, I don't know, this is not my
Right,
forte.
Right, those are.
This is not my business.
Those are options, but that's up to him if he can
I-
afford that or
yeah.
not.
But I think
From our
that,
position, excuse me, from our position, we've allowed him to do this and with limited hours, and that's what I'm attempting to do here now, and what we're
Sure.
attempting,
Yeah.
is to keep the hours limited. I don't want to give full 24-hour, 7 days a week out until something's done. Maybe you'll make a lot of money and add a chimney to it and take care of the problem that way, or something will change.
Should we get through public comment and then go back to discussion, just to
Yeah.
make sure
Oh, yeah, we will. yeah.
adhere to? Yeah.
So we're trying to work
Yeah,
with
I know you
both of
are.
you here on this, you know. I don't
I
want to
know
chase them
every-
out, and I don't want to, smoke you out.
yeah, this is just, I feel like a prisoner in my own home. I mean, I obviously wouldn't have my windows open. I have a hot tub. There's many nights I can't sit out there because of the smoke. So I mean, that's year round. And that's the only reason why I say that. I'm expecting to be able to use my yard. And with a hot tub, I have the ability, I'm wanting to be out there just about every night. So his smoke is affecting me even in the winter. A lot of times we go out to see if it's too smoky to even use my yard. That doesn't seem right. And there are nuisance laws in Michigan. And I think if you look through them, I mean, this is a nuisance on every level. And I'm not trying to be overly dramatic here. I know what exposure to this. I know what prolonged. Am I going to be exposed to this for 24 hours a week for 52 weeks a year? I mean, if you can actually look at some of those and think, yeah, I would do that to my own kids. I would expose that to my own family and my own kids. I mean, I don't think you guys would. I really don't. I'm really frustrated at this point, and I understand both sides of it, but I'm trying to, there's nothing that I can do. And I just see this as, the cost of doing business is making sure that what you're putting out into the, a residential space. I mean, we're all right there. So he picked a spot to smoke in the middle of a neighborhood, and that's fine, but there's ramifications, there's consequences to that. And I just don't think that that's right. So,
Thank you.
yeah.
Anyone else in public?
Stephanie Koval, 38 West Tacoma Street. I'm listening to what you guys are saying, and I do want to ask that, the limits of the smoking is revisited. And right now, we are in the winter months. I said this before. I don't really open my window. I can just see it when I drive by and see the smoke, or when I'm going in and out of my house. So right now, yeah, it's still affecting me, but it is what it is. But at no point do I want to see this be unlimited 24/7 use, because then I have no way of knowing when I can enjoy the outside, and especially in the warmer months. And I know that with, the holidays, that tends to be when he was using it more, or in the summer with the festivals and catering and, outdoor barbecues. I imagine that it's going to get a lot of use, and he probably will want the 24/7. But why do the neighbors have to be the ones to give and make all the concessions when, he's said that he's not willing to put a stack on because he can't afford to do it? Well, it would be really easy if I could afford to move. I could just leave and it wouldn't be an issue. but the value of my house is probably affected, so I don't know. I mean, we all have to make some concessions here, and that's all I'm asking for. I'm asking that you guys consider the residents, even if it's just a few of us. Please, 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 consider our safety and us being allowed to use our yard and our homes and enjoy it. You know, I didn't know 20 years ago when I bought that this was gonna be an issue. And it almost sounds like nobody really knew this was gonna be an issue, because when he opened up shop, nobody knew that he was gonna be smoking outside, and then when it started, that's when he had to come to planning commission for a site plan approval.
And I think we're trying to look at both sides here and
Yeah,
trying to help you out.
so, thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else in public?
Hello.
Oh,
Hi. I will have more comments later if needed, but just addressing the committee and also the public, if we could please keep the comments to addressing the business as a whole. I'm hearing a lot more narrative that's addressing Chef Collier as a person and his integrity as, quote, what kind of person we're dealing with and things of that nature, questioning parenting decisions, because questioning if other people would allow their parents around smoke, or their children around smoke, he's a father also. So these are just things that have been said. So I would ask the public to understand that this is a human being and this person is trying his hardest. And those photos, we can discuss at a later time during this meeting, but that's when the grill is lighting. We've been through this scenario. That picture was taken within the 10 seconds that the grill was firing. I'm there all the time. There's not smoke, there's not fire coming out of the grill pouring with smoke. The grill was that was a very short period of time. So that's my only comment, if we could please just understand that although there might be some anger towards smoke and coming from this entity and everything, that at the core of this, we're all together and trying to come to a unanimous decision. In addition to that, postponing for a certain period of time when already hearing that the public does not ever want that to happen, we're just going to keep going through this again and again. So that's all. Thank you.
thank you. Anyone else in public? Seeing none, I will now close public, and if we want to have further discussion before,
I've got a couple of questions. So the current conditions on their smoking hours are unlimited from the last meeting? Okay. So if we make the motion now, we're going to continue that unlimited operation? Is that was the intent of the motion?
Yeah, to get a true feel of what it's hard to pull it back now at this
Okay.
point.
No, I just think, if we talk business sense, right, what you have is you have an inherent condition of operations of smoke, right? And if you're talking about a business, you're not willing to give capital to resolve the issue. So you're right, we're just going to chase our tails forever on this one. So my opinion then, the smoke is inherent. Unless we have some capital improvements, we're not serving the public. So that's my comments.
any further comments?
Well, I agree. I don't know exactly what to say about that. I do know that we do have nuisance ordinances in our ordinance. However, we are not the enforcer of the nuisance ordinance, but identifying those nuisances such as noise, dust, smoke, that is exactly what is listed in our ordinance, and it actually says, which prevents the free use of one's property. So our ordinance directly addresses this issue. I guess I don't really know where to go from there. Come June, I would say that I would be highly in favor of imposing some type of instruction to the owner if nothing has been done since then. Truly, I will say that, when you do business, there are things that you have to reinvest in. Yeah, that's where I'm at, I guess. I would like to, as a commission, try to go through what things we think in the meantime need to be addressed and how effectively we can do that. And the,
I agree with Commissioner Tinlin. I mean, we're going to continue chasing our tail here because what needs to happen is some kind of containment, or whatever that may be. And I'm not an expert, but I know that similar type of barbecuing that goes down in Texas, when I was looking around on the internet, they have, like an enclosure that they have the grill in and that routes the smoke up high, right? I don't see a good outcome without some kind of investment in something like that.
so do you guys have a specific amendment that you would like me to amend my motion to
If we're going to
include?
extend it till the first meeting in June, I'd like to go back to the 3 days a week.
Yeah, I'm saying that to amend my motion to maybe include a plan to directly address the smoke from the owner? I don't know.
I'm not sure if that's in our scope. If we can say if there's no remediation of the smoke, then we'll discontinue hours or something like that. I'm not sure the scope of what the commission can do. But that's my stance. And if we come back here in June and we have 1 or 2 complaints and nothing's been done, then I would not support any hours of operation. We serve the public and the public health, not the business. It's unfortunate. So that's my opinion on that. But if we just go through this, we've been talking for this for a year now, right? So why waste everyone's time? So that's my opinion. If they don't have remediation by the time they come back, I'm not sure if we can put that in motion, but that's what I'm going to say in public. Can we do that, Nick, or no? I see our city attorney sitting there, too. Because we have the scope, right? We select the conditions of operations right now, right?
Correct, and right now, based on the last conditional approval, it's as needed for what he's looking for.
Full range, right? They
Correct.
have full operations. But we also have the right to go backwards based on, can we put a context in, we need remediation?
I believe that you'd be able to refer back to the original site plan that was approved in 2022, which was for those 2 days.
What's the rest of the commissioners feel? Because I'm putting another condition on, right?
Would a no vote revert to the original operation, and then a yes vote would extend? Right.
Brenda, you knew we were going to get you involved.
No, you're fine. Now we're getting somewhere. Now we get the law.
Something. Good evening. Now, to answer your question, not based on the motion that's on the table, it wouldn't just automatically revert, if that's your question. You understand what I mean? So this motion does something entirely different. You could have that motion and go back to the original site plan.
Well, I guess, because a yes vote would extend the unlimited hours to June, right?
Yes.
So a no vote would
not.
Would
Well,
take it
you
back.
already have,
Would
pardon
take
me,
it
I'm
back.
sorry.
Motion, yeah.
Yeah.
In this motion, you already have that currently
Right.
right now.
You could shoot down
You're
this motion.
simply, with this motion, you're just saying, you're basically punting, saying.
We're
we'll
just
come back and
postponing what's
revisit.
happening.
We'll just
Exactly.
postpone.
So a no vote would do what then?
Nothing. We'll just keep as is.
Maybe withdraw the motion.
As is,
As is expired, though.
yeah.
If I may, the reason why they came in first place, they came because they wanted to amend the original site plan that we approved. And we are here today based on that amendment. So if we do deny the motion that is, it goes back to the original site plan because by definition, we deny the amendment that they requested.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
I
You can
agree.
go home now. Yeah.
Yes.
So in English, we
So,
get,
so a no vote would revert back to the original approved hours, which
The
is
original
2
site
times.
plan.
Right.
Correct.
But Original
Correct.
site plan, which is 2 days a week.
Nights, actually.
2 nights a week, whatever hours.
Yep.
were
However, we
specified.
approved it when the site plan was
Okay.
approved originally, with a no vote today. And the actual, the smoker will go back to the fence right next to the neighbor as well.
Okay.
Because this is a part of the amendment.
Okay. That's-
If we do decide to, I think, withdraw the amendment, or the
Motion?
motion on the table, and then vote on the current site plan, I think we should at least make sure we have the rationale. So if the applicant does want to come back in the future, they know which issues
I think that's pretty
decide,
clear.
it just, I think that's fair to them, right? To-
Pretty clear what is requested from both sides, so.
Well, I will withdraw my motion. I don't know, do I have to have support to withdraw my motion? Do you,
Support.
okay, but I would like to motion that if we're reverting, I guess I have to do it in the form of a motion. All right, I motion that we would revert to the original approval with the change of moving the grill to the front and keeping it where it's at currently.
Can we do that?
That doesn't make
I think it's
sense.
just denying their
It
We
doesn't-
can't revert back?
If I may, again, if we don't do anything, they came for an amendment
Yeah,
to the original site plan.
yeah.
So you're amending their amendment, that's what you're doing.
Okay, so, all right.
We cannot do that, that we
Okay.
have an approved site plan. If they're asking for an amendment, we either move on the amendment or not. It's as simple as that. If we move positively, they get the amendment. If we don't, it goes back to site plan as originally.
Okay.
To move the grill or the smoker, well, that's up to them. If they want to do that, they come here, they ask for approval.
Okay.
But not up to us.
Sure, okay. That's where I guess I'm at. So I'll leave it
I
up
just
to
want to
everybody else.
make a clarification. So their original amendment, their original ask was for 24/7,
Correct, and to move it up
365,
front.
and to move the smoker.
Correct.
Can we not say no to the
Yeah,
24/7,
They can say
365,
that,
but
and
yes to the
they can
smoker?
refuse it, and it goes back to site plan.
I'm just saying, can't we split it and say yes to this piece?
Yeah.
and no to that piece?
We can grant certain approvals of the amendment, I would say. But you'd have to make a motion for that.
Yeah.
Our motion would have to be predicated on
So-
that, just moving the smoker.
Right.
I move
Not-
that we,
not touching
I move
hours.
that we accept the moving of the grill to where the grill is currently and deny the request for 24/7, 365.
I would second.
Can we have one more public comment, please, from before the motion is
Yeah.
It's probably not a good idea. On legal advice, no. We haven't, voted yet.
But just an idea that I think would be.
Point of order.
Yeah, no, public is closed at this point in time. It's up to us right now. I have a motion and I have support, right? Do we have the motion worded out for us?
There's some back and forth there, so I just want to make sure I get the
Yeah, just
motion.
make sure it's clear before.
Yes. So the motion was to accept the site plan amendment to move the smoker to the front.
Correct.
And then to revert back to the original hours of operation as approved in April of 2022.
Correct.
Or deny that
No,
portion of the.
To deny,
Or
Yeah.
deny the motion what I had said was deny the motion to operate 24/7.
Right, there, you can't have two motions into one, though.
That's fine.
it's not. The amendment of.
Okay,
Yeah,
got it, okay.
it's one.
Okay, and that was
Basically
motion.
splitting the amendment, right?
Gotcha.
Correct, yeah.
And so it was motion by you, Mr. Scott, and second was Mr. Carpenter.
Correct.
Okay. And did you call for the roll? I'm sorry.
I haven't yet, because I want to make sure that we're clear. We're voting, a yes vote on this means that they're going to move back to the original hours of operation that they had. They're not going to get the 24/7 hours that they're seeking. And the grill movement is debatable, I think.
If I may, can we add the timeline, because this will just put them in limbo, or you just want to do this outright?
You want to put in June 10th to come back?
Pleasure of Mr. Scott.
Yeah, because we're going to have a chance, right? So if they come back and have some type of remediation
Right.
for the impact of their operations, I would support that, right? So give them till June.
Yeah, I
and
think that's
give them a
fine.
chance, right?
We'll keep with the June 10th review.
You support that or no?
Yep.
June 10 review.
If they have
Yeah, I
remediation.
withdraw my support,
Yeah, that's very
if I
confusing.
can, on that.
I'll support that. I'll support your new motion with the amendment.
Okay, do we have that? It's about as clear as mud.
These
Do
minutes
you
are going to
want
look really
to
good.
clarify that again? No, I'm kidding.
And we got the motion.
I'm sorry, this has gotten way too confusing.
Yes.
We would do a conditional approval, if we were going to leave up to them some remediation to come back and then
Right.
go through this amendment again. So wouldn't we, I can't even put my own thoughts together on this. I'm struggling to see why they would come back unless they come with a brand-new site plan.
And if they come back, they're going to have to show us that the smoke is not bothering the neighborhood, because that's the problem we're facing.
Right, so what is the June, what's the June revisit for? That's confusing me.
So that's a good point.
Yeah,
We vote on what we had originally motioned, okay? It's up to them. If they want to come back because they have a remediation that they want to present to us, great. Then we can talk about opening up the hours.
Well, and I think that keeping it open does allow them, to be fair,
Right.
from having to resubmit a whole approval process again. So it kind of, in good faith, gives them the opportunity, right, Nick? To
Yeah.
not have to resubmit and repay for a site plan approval. So if we can leave a portion of this open, and on their behalf, they can come back, or not, in June, because they can come back and say, hey, we found this solution, it's great. And we can reconsider it if, and we can reconsider the full amendment at that time once again. Right, Nick?
Yes.
Okay, so I am in favor of
By
that.
leaving the date in, they're not paying additional to start from scratch with a site plan.
I think the motion would need to be reworded because by what's being discussed right now would be a conditional approval for the proposed location, but the previous hours.
Well, we already had that motion, though.
Right.
Right, but there's a new motion on the
Amendment
table.
For them to come back on June 10th.
Yep.
Okay.
So why would we deny the second portion of their request?
Wait,
Because we don't want 24/7 apparently, smoking. It's a lot simpler than it sounds like.
I mean, why don't we just put it on them to come up with a solution and then submit? I mean, who's to say they're going to do anything in the timeline from now until June?
well, I would like to offer them
They
the
may-
opportunity to revisit without having to file
would
and
be a-
pay all the fees
Yeah.
again.
They've had a ton of opportunity to rectify this, though. I mean, they haven't done anything in terms of mitigating the smoke. It's just been a request after request, and we've been kicking the can down the road.
Yeah.
So do we want to take the June 10th date off of the motion and allow them to
Yeah, I
come back?
think we just go back to the original motion, in my mind. That's what
geez,
I'm
now I'm
moving,
really
right?
confused, guys.
Is
I don't even know who
we're
made
gonna-
what
We're going to
motion.
allow the smoker to move to the front, and we're going to revert back to the original hours.
I would
We're
second
going to
that.
deny
Well, you
the,
cannot
Well,
because
he
my
has to
second is still
withdraw.
valid to the amendment.
Yeah.
So,
He has to officially withdraw in second first.
So it sounds we're right back to the same spot then, right?
Yes, we are.
Okay.
Did anyone not get a chance to second this thing?
no. we
Second
have to-
what?
We have to take a vote because I'm not withdrawing my second to the amendment.
Well, someone else can second it.
So,
No.
Nick,
No,
do you
as
want to
long as
read
my-
back
my-
what your
my-
notes are for the amendment on?
We don't have two motions
We're
going
gonna
at
have
the
to
same
rewatch
time,
this a
do
few
we?
times.
I know.
There's one motion.
Fully
one amendment.
capture.
We can vote the original motion and not vote the amendment, sure.
So what would a no, just for clarification, what would a no do in this situation now? I'm
It would revert completely back to the original site plan
Okay,
with
okay.
the smoker up front, or not
In the
up
back.
front,
Back.
in the back.
See it. Okay.
If I may, we have to vote on the amendment first, right?
Correct.
Yeah, we have to vote on the amendment first, and then if that fails, obviously, we go to the original motion of Mr. Scott.
Okay, we have an amendment and we have
Correct.
support for the amendment?
Yes.
Can you read the amendment for us?
Yeah.
So we know what we're voting on. What
Right.
is?
The amendment was to include coming back on June 10th
Okay.
to the original motion. So
Yeah,
only thing we
motion.
voted on is to come back on June 10th.
Motion's to come back on the June 10th,
Correct.
and I got support on that. Can we vote on that, please?
Okay. Mr. Kucera,
No.
Mr. Nushai,
Yes.
Ms. Redmond,
Yes.
Mr. Scott,
no.
Mr. Solomon,
Yes.
Mr. Tinlin,
Yes.
Mr. Carpenter,
No.
Mr. Fitzer.
Yes.
That was 5 in favor and then 3 noes. So the amendment did pass.
Amendment passed. So we're allowing them to come back on June 10th.
Now we have to vote on the original
The
motion.
original motion.
And the only reason we're allowing the June 10th is that they saves them money. They're not applying from a brand-new site plan at that
They
point in
don't,
time.
yeah, they don't have to come.
Right, with an opportunity for
Right, it's just the
remediation.
same thing. Okay, can you read the real motion then with the amendment added to it?
Correct. So that was revert to the original, revert to the original site plan.
Not the full usage.
Right,
of
without the full usage, with the smoker being at the front location to come back on June 10th.
I'm sorry, can you repeat that? I'm sorry.
So the motion is to revert to the original site plan approval hours, and then to come back on June 10th and the smoking hours.
Not June 10th, not June 10th, just the smoker.
Right, but the full motion is to have the smoker at the new location as they amended, revert back to the original hours, and they're coming back on June 10th. Right.
We already voted on June.
Right, but you just voted to include
That's an
that
amendment to
into the
this
original
Oh, okay,
motion.
sorry, okay, go
Yeah,
ahead.
that's a tag on to
So
this.
there's three pieces to this
You are
motion
correct.
that's being
You are
voted on.
correct. You are correct.
Thank you.
So who made the motion on this one?
I did.
Just
Have a
for
motion.
discussion before we vote. Is that okay?
Yeah.
Yeah,
Okay.
sorry. So can they, it's kind of like an open site plan amendment. Can they submit a new site plan? So my fear is they ask for additional days beyond the 2 that they have in their current site plan, right? Because they were growing and needed more time to keep up with business. So if we're leaving this open till June 10th, can they submit a new site plan within that time frame to say, we can't wait till June 10th? Or can they come earlier than June 10th if they talk to administration? I'm just trying to figure that out for our
I don't see why they
applicants.
couldn't come back before then. I think the
Okay.
June 10th is a deadline that you're
If they
setting,
feel
and if
like
they
they
come
have
back
remediation,
before
they-
then, great, they're before the deadline.
Okay, thank you.
Does that answer your question?
Yeah.
We have motion and we have support.
Yep.
Yes.
May I have roll call, please?
Mr. Nushai?
Yes.
Ms. Redmond?
Yes,
Mr. Scott?
Yes.
Mr. Solomon?
No.
Mr. Tinlin?
Yes.
Mr. Carpenter?
Yes.
Mr. Fitzer?
No.
Mr. Cusero?
Yes,
All right. That motion did pass.
thank you.
Thank you.
We're trying to work with you, and we're trying to work with residents at the same time. We're just going to do the best we can.
Can you please just clarify so I can address to Shaw, what the parameters are?
Point of order.
We can't do it in this format here. You can check with Nick on the way out, and he'll,
And just to address the planning commission, I'll follow up with the applicant tomorrow to let them know what this approval consists of. And again, those original 2 days were Wednesdays and Sundays from 10 p.m. to 8 a.m. So that'll be clear in their response back to them.
okay. Thank you. Thank you. And thank you, the public. Where are we at now? Now we'll move on to agenda item number 8, which is consideration of the preliminary site condominium application for 626 Phillips, which is the Baker School site.
Thank you. Yes, so we are looking at the former Baker site at 626 Phillips Avenue. And this is a 2.99 acre site located on the northwest corner of Phillips Avenue and North Bywood Avenue. The actual direct corner is not part of the site because there is a small lot there with a single-family home on it that already occupies that site. The site is zoned R2 single-family residential, and it's entirely surrounded by R1 and R2 zoning. The R2 zoning is across North Bywood Avenue. Everything else is R1. Clausen DPW, of course, lies directly to the north, and everything else is single-family homes. For reference, the only difference between the R1 and R2 districts are the required minimum square footage of a dwelling unit and the maximum
Joe,
impervious
excuse
surface
me,
coverage.
just point of order, we can have a conversation in the audience. Thank you.
The impervious surface coverage, which is 55% in R1 and 60% in R2. So condominium subdivisions go through a process that's set forth in section 6.4 of the zoning ordinance. There is a preliminary condominium subdivision plan, which is what we're looking at tonight. There is a final preliminary condominium subdivision plan. Don't love that wording, but that's what's in our ordinance. Final preliminary is a fun phrase. And then there is council approval, and then there are building permits. So we're looking at the preliminary condominium plan. They're proposing a condominium subdivision with 14 lots, each of which will have a detached single-family home with an attached garage. Some example homes have been provided. Those were not the actual final designs of any particular home in the development. They have actually given us, I don't know if they were given in time for the packet, but we did. They've customized their plans to meet the standards of for single-family homes that we have in section 4.1. Mainly like the garage being set further back and things like that. The subdivision plan includes the extension of Baker Avenue through the middle of the project. That street currently terminates in that Baker School parking lot. A detention pond is included in the northeastern portion of the project. So again, 14 residential units, all of which are detached single-family homes. The example home illustrations include 3 and 4 bedroom units. All 14 lots are greater than 50 feet in width, and each exceeds the minimum R2 lot size of, R1 lot size of 5,500 square feet. Both R1 and R2 have a 5,500 square foot limit. For the dimensional requirements, the R2 district standards apply. The setback, height, lot coverage, and impervious surface coverage of each individual house would be reviewed for zoning compliance at the time of application for a building permit. Building review also assesses compliance with 4.1 standards for single-family detached dwelling units. A subdivision plan shows the building envelopes in which the primary structure can be constructed, but it won't show the actual structures themselves on each individual lot. So the minimum lot size that's required in the district is 5,500 square feet. The smallest that's presented is 5,533 square feet. The minimum lot width is 50 feet, and the smallest proposed is 50.3 feet. Lot coverage would be reviewed at the time of building permit. There's a maximum of 35% in this district. The maximum building height would also be reviewed at the time of the building permit, and that's 25 feet and 2 stories in this district. The front setback is 25 feet. Side setbacks, typically we have a side setback of 5 feet with a total of 15 for the 2 side setbacks. In this case, they are proposing homes with attached garages. That's 5 and 5 based on section 512L of the zoning ordinance. If they were to change course and propose a home with a detached garage, the 515 standard would apply. That, of course, would be reviewed at the time of building permit application. The rear setback of the district is 35 feet, and that is what they're showing on their building envelope. And then side setbacks from the street are 10 feet per section 3.6C, and they are showing that as well. Standards for detached single-family homes is section 4.1. That will apply to all of the structures that get built here. The standards of that section can be met on the proposed lots, but full review would be conducted at the time of building permit. We have our condominium development standards at section 6.4, and the materials submitted with this application satisfy the informational requirements of section 6.4F for preliminary condominium subdivision approval. We have our standard 4.5 is the section number, development of public or non-residential property in residential zoning districts. They are proposing single-family residential construction in a site condominium, which leads us to apply section 4.5B. They are meeting the standards of that section. There are 4 of them. And requires that a site plan be submitted It requires that the proposed development, it's actually not they're not using a recorded plat, so that standard doesn't apply. Single-family residential use proposed shall meet existing building regulations as to height, setback, and lot area requirements, so they just meet the current zoning ordinance for the district. And then it looks for, to the extent possible and practical, the architectural style of original houses within the recorded subdivision to be complemented by the appearance of the new buildings. Look at off-street parking. We do have a single-family home off-street parking requirement of 2 spaces. They've got 2-car garages and 30-foot driveways, so you've got 4 spaces there. Single-family developed is generally exempt from the landscaping standards of Section 515. There will be a street tree per lot required. Those would be shown on the final condo approval plans. The final preliminary condo approval plans. Street lighting plan would be required at final preliminary as well if street lighting is going to be proposed. Pedestrian circulation, so the public sidewalk will be maintained around the perimeter of the development and then constructed along the new portion of Baker Avenue, both sides. The street is proposed to be a public street as required in section 3.1.s.3.b.I. You should have received the engineering review as well. They are happy with the preliminary materials that they've received as far as the design of the street is concerned. We didn't have any objections from DPW, police, or fire. And if you have any questions for me, I'm happy to answer them. And I know the applicant is here as well.
I'm not sure if it's just me, or maybe I'm just not getting something here. These are single-family homes, it says in one line.
That's correct.
In another line, it says condominium subdivision. Is there a reason why we keep mixing these two words? Are they a condo or are they
a condominium subdivision is just a type of subdivision. So you carve up the land into individual lots for homes, just like you would with a plat, except that the ownership model is a condominium, which means that everybody is in the development is part of an association. And that association has certain rights and responsibilities that are enumerated in a master deed and bylaws. In this case, maintenance of the detention pond would be one of those responsibilities.
So this is going to have an HOA?
It will have an HOA, yes.
It will, because of that.
Yes, that's correct. But otherwise, it's just single-family homes on individual lots. It's from a drive-by perspective, let's say, it's indistinguishable from other types of single-family development.
Yeah, the word condominium just keeps throwing me off.
It's because we're trained to think of condominiums as like Miami condominiums, where you've got like a tower with a bunch of apartments in it. Yeah.
And Joe, just from our lessons learned on the Sham development, HOAs are pretty much the standard way to do the developments now, right?
That's correct,
In Oakland
yeah.
County? Okay.
Platting is almost extinct in Michigan.
Joe, is it just an error that there was a reference to city center zoning at the beginning of our packet for this?
I'm sure it probably was.
Okay.
Oh, yeah.
Okay.
That's not supposed to be there.
So I'm glad you referenced the 4.5. This is, we're not voting on approval today, right? They still need to submit a site plan?
Well, no, they have their site plan submitted. So
Because our
yes, you will be voting on.
6.1 site plan review and approval process, we are approving these lot coverage, building height, those are all delineated and
Well, the thing is, when you're looking at a condominium, you're not looking at the actual building plans. So you are not going to be looking at lot coverage or building heights or the individual buildings at all. You're approving the layout of the subdivision. You're not looking at buildings at all. That all comes through building permits later on.
except for if it's not meeting our ordinance, then
Then that's flagged at the time of building permit approval, and they are required to revise their plans.
where does it spell that out in the site plan approval?
And that's just the way site condominiums are done. I mean, we've never really dealt with a site condominium in the city before, so our ordinance is probably inadequate as far as some of the intricacies of how you have to deal with them, but under the Condo Act, you can't require them to submit all the home plans at the same time that they're subdividing the land. So we are just looking at the layout of the site condominium. And then when they come in for each individual home site, that has to be reviewed against our ordinance, the plans that they submit for each individual home. And it's just like any other house that would get built in town on a lot of record.
So Joe, if we approve the plan based on the proposed building envelope, which is requesting a 5 and 5 foot side yard setback,
Right.
where in the ordinance does that say that the 5 and 15, it doesn't apply with a attached?
Section 3.6C of your zoning ordinance does that.
I'm sorry, what was that again?
3.6C.
C.
So we don't even have a rendering of a single home or what this looks like.
We have examples of product that they've built, and
No.
he's got the ones that they've customized.
It wasn't
for the-
provided in our packet.
Yeah, so it wasn't a necessary step for this review. Again, you're approving.
That's correct. It's actually
the
not
land. So
required
I-
now.
I did receive their concept plans right now that they're working on to be in line with the ordinance, so it's just, by right, like someone's building in a new build, wherever else in Clawson. So I do have those. I just wanted to let
Sorry,
Joe
it's not
finish his
3.6C.
presentation before I could show the concepts to you. So if
Sorry.
it's an appropriate time, I can share those on the screen right now.
Sorry, 3.6C was the other standard. 5.12L is the one that I was trying to refer to.
Joe, what about the corner clearances on these? It's not,
That's 3.6C. 5.12L was the one I was trying to say, and 3.6C is the one that brings up the corner clearance. So 5.12L says, when a garage is attached to a principal structure, the minimum required combined setback of the side yard shall be 10 feet. And then 3.6C says, side yard abutting upon a street shall not be less than 10 feet when there is a common rear yard relationship in such block and a common side yard relationship with the block directly across the common separation street. In the case of a rear yard abutting the side yard of an adjacent lot, or when such side yard abuts on frontages across a common street, the side yard abutting a street shall not be less than the required front yard of the district, and all regulations applicable to the front yard shall apply. So you have two corner lots here, and only one of them backs up to another home, and it backs up to its rear yard, backs up to the rear yard of that other home, and then when you go across Bywood, you have exterior side yards across Bywood. So based on that relationship, 3.6C applies. There is a 10-foot minimum setback there, just like there is across Bywood with those existing homes. And that's the standard that applies in that situation. Okay. Yeah, Nick has brought up the home designs as well. Again, those aren't required at preliminary, but they would be required, we'd be required to see examples at the final preliminary.
Joe, are the corner clearances met on the corners of the homes?
Yeah, they're set back 25 feet from the front street.
Okay.
So that triangle doesn't cut into the house when you draw it down the other property line.
Right. So at the time of getting the building approval, what happens if they need a variance?
Well, so two possibilities. One is that they revise their plan to be compliant. That's always the first route. If for some reason they feel they have a unique circumstance that merits a variance, they would be able to pursue a variance through the Zoning Board of Appeals. It doesn't guarantee it'd be granted to them. But just like any other property owner, they would be able to grant a variance. However, given that they're building the homes on lots that they subdivided, I think it would be hard to make the case that it wasn't a self-created practical difficulty.
Yeah. I'm just really struggling with the whole site plan because when 6.1 gives specific information that's not included in here at all.
Yeah, so because condominium developments are protected by the Michigan Site Condominium Act, we have to defer to that. There are just simply elements of a normal site plan for, like, say, a commercial building that are just not present here. They're just not going to be. So there are certain things that we have to just accept that that's not part of this submission. Because it's a very different type of plan. And again, this is a built-out community. Everything was built on a plat. I think our ordinance simply just does not interface well with site condominiums because it doesn't really anticipate that they're going to happen. But in this case, we've got two school sites that are going away, and that's how you develop single-family homes now, when you're not doing like a simple lot split. So,
Yeah, but I mean, even Shalom came in front of us with specific site delineations.
well, they had a planned unit development,
Yeah.
and even they weren't showing us the individual homes. They were showing us building envelopes, just like this is.
So, Joe, when they come back, will they have to go through the same thing that we're doing right now? We'll just approve the lot sizes for them? For sure?
Yeah, exactly, yeah. Yeah, we'll be going through the exact same process when they come back, because they're not doing a PUD anymore.
So upon each submittal for each individual building permit, will the applicant have to go through a site plan for each individual lot, given that there's not any drainage or stormwater management for each lot? All it has is one retention pond for the development. But individual lots themselves it doesn't describe how it's
The
gonna be
individual lots, they have a utility plan actually already developed, but the
Okay.
individual lots are part of an overall drainage plan for the site that has to be followed when you construct each individual house.
So do we have that, though?
So,
We do have at least a preliminary
So
yeah,
utility
and
plan.
each backyard will have some level of stormwater management in their backyard. So every new build home that we have does collect water and then take it to the combined sewer system.
Okay.
So they'll have the retention pond on site as well as the rear yard drainage for every single one of those homes.
So that's all great and everything, but shouldn't we, if you guys are requesting, or if the applicant's requesting an approval now, shouldn't we have that plan to go off of?
Well, this is
That's-
the preliminary, so this is just
Okay.
like, yeah, so
Right.
this is just like what is to be reviewed tonight is to go through just like the base level plan for the property, to kind of go through, give the planning commission an idea of what the site condominium will look like, and then at that next step, though, they provide additional details on the plan.
So there'll be a follow-up with?
Yes,
Okay.
yeah, so there's more than one approval in front of the planning commission.
Okay,
Right.
thank you.
Yeah, this basically confers the right to go through engineering review, essentially. That's what we're doing right now. And then when they come back, after going through that, they've got all that worked out. Their whole utility plan will be correct from the standpoint of the city. And then the final preliminary approval would be granted by the planning commission at that point. That gives them the right to engage in the public improvements. And then, once they've done that, they present as-built drawings to the city. That goes through engineering review and is then presented to city council for final approval, at which point they can then start pulling building permits. So it's like a 3-step process. 2 of the steps occur at planning commission and 1 occurs at city council.
Joe, in your memo, you you describe it as, detached buildings with 2-car garages, and I know we're seeing a photo of it now, but trying to find where that information is in the application itself. I don't see where it describes that it's going to have a 2-car garage anywhere.
I guess, I didn't look at the packet. I know that in the plans that I reviewed, that information was in there. So I don't know if you just didn't receive that portion of it, but that is what they're proposing, and that's also the source of the 5 and 5 setback that they're showing on their plan per that section 5.
That makes me a little concerned because, on the application checklist, they also say that they provide conceptual floor plans and elevations. And so I'm getting the impression that we don't have everything that was submitted.
Oh, yeah, because I saw those too. I don't.
So again, that's not something that comes at this stage of the approval. So the point of the initial preliminary, what we're doing now, is to approve the lot layout, then they go to engineering, get all of that laid out, because the floor plans may be subject to change. There might be some lots where an attached garage works or detached garage works, and that all determines on the slope of the property, where they can put the stormwater catch basins, and so it's a bit preemptive to provide that. I know the application may state that. I think it's forward-leaning to the process as a whole, and that it will come in the future. But at this point, it's simply just the approval of the layout, the homes, the street, those things. I can see how it can be confusing. I mean, again, Joe touched on it. We haven't had one of these reviews, so I'm sure it's very new thing to look at.
No, understood. It's conceptual. I just when things are described, but when the application, when the memos themselves that are coming from staff don't align with the application themselves, it doesn't add up to me, and right. And
Certainly,
so,
I think part of that was we've gotten some conceptuals from them as they've been working through the ordinance, and Joe and I have discussed and shared them between us, and I think that communication just kind of got blurred into the full review of what ended up coming in front of you today.
So with this garage, I know this is just a conceptual. I don't know if that's actually a home that they're planning on putting in Clausen, but the garage is supposed to have a 5-foot setback and not be, I believe it's like 25% or more of the
full
frontage
full
of the
facade.
home.
Yeah.
So, that's going to be part of the building process as well,
Yep.
the
Yeah.
review,
Yeah.
as well as potential fencing and things of that
Correct.
nature.
Yes.
Yeah.
Because each of these is just an individual single-family lot once it's subdivided. So it's just like any other lot in the city, really, as far as when you put a house on it.
So if they ran into an issue where there were a lot of variances that they were seeking, they wouldn't ever come back to us?
No, they would be in front of the zoning board of appeals, probably getting denied.
Yeah, okay.
Very blunt, Joe.
I mean, it is like a very black and white process, right? Like,
Yes.
yeah.
Yeah. And so it's confusing because there's not any plans that the planning commission looks at that doesn't have elevations, height, all of that. And so if we have there's a demo going on Lincoln for a new home, so he's providing to our building official everything that you would typically look at for a commercial development, but at the residential scale. And so that's what will happen on this lot, and then ultimately, potentially whatever happens with Shalom too, any site condominium development.
So can you remind me what we're going to see at the next step of this?
So you're going to see the more detailed utility plans, which can be very, let's say, line work intensive. There's a lot of stuff on those plans. And the, I don't want to call it model, but example home package would be part of that as well. And any refinements, to the street or anything that might arise during discussions with engineering. If there's any need to resize the pond or anything like that would also be reflected in those plans. It's not going to be super different from what you're seeing tonight, but it will be more developed.
If there's no further questions, I would entertain a motion. I don't know that the public can actually bring much to this. This is a preliminary site.
This is going to designate this as a condominium site.
Okay,
Yeah, I mean, I guess the main thing to think here is when we're thinking about public comment is this meets all the standards of your ordinance and must be approved. So it doesn't really matter what gets said.
Yeah,
It has to be approved.
that's exactly where I'm getting.
To be fair, you did mention that you would open up public comment, so
And I could be nice and I could do that, but how many people have something they'd like to say? Oh, I do have people. Okay.
Just for conversation as well, the applicant and his engineers here as well, that I think he may be able to dive into some of those questions a little more detailed before they come back for that next preliminary review. I think that might help shed some light as well, and also give an introduction to them, to you, before they come back next time.
Right, so would your recommendation be that the applicant speak first, and that might cure some of their questions, or have them ask their questions first, and then you could answer them that way?
Yeah, I mean, common practice goes, Joe provides his overview, ask questions to Joe, then the applicant will speak. I think that's the process that we should follow,
And then public.
if that's your wish, Chair.
I said to get public so to speak. Let's go with the applicant first, if you're gonna.
Thank you, Nick. Thank you, Mr. Chairperson.
Sure.
David Gans with Winnick Homes. We're very excited about this project. To answer a few questions that were asked before, it's kind of like putting the cart in front of the horse. What we're asking for tonight is basically approve the layout as they suggested. What we've brought and Nick put on the board are preliminary plans. I'm not going to go through full investment and developing plans just to come before you to say, well, the layout's not approved. We don't want to develop houses that don't necessarily fit on the lot. Having said that, the elevation that was shown, the garage is 5-foot setback from the front facade, from the front door. 2-car attached garages, 5-foot setbacks on both sides. And ask her, one of the questions regarding the engineering, we've met with staff and we have our preliminary engineering done. But unlike some of the homes that are in existing communities, we will have on-site detention. We'll also, in each of the rear yards, we'll have catch basins for stormwater. Swales between the homes to shed all the water there, and all that water then sheds to the detention and then gets discharged at a pace that the engineers and everybody agrees to. The elevations, Nick, if you want to put them back up, they are conceptual, but we think the elevations kind of, when you have an existing community, we think they blend well. Front porches, some of the houses see, I don't think they're all that pedestrian. I did share some floor plans, a floor plan with Nick. I'm not sure if he's just presented the elevations today, but in the final analysis, I think the community is going to be very happy with the development. We're excited to get going. And the next step, you will have the full engineering, and most of this is out of our hands. All the consulting engineers, your engineers, the county and the staff, they basically approve everything and make sure it works. You probably have in the community right now, when you don't have rear yard storm, this neighbor's water sheds on that water, you're not going to have that situation here. Everything has to be a master grading plan, and we'll adhere to that.
And you said that that doesn't go into the combined sewer system, that goes to your, I always get it mixed up, detention, retention pond?
Oh, eventually does, eventually does.
But first it's diverted to that pond, and then, so it's not going right from the backyard to the stormwater sewers? Okay, I thought that's what I
engineer
heard.
can answer that better.
Okay, sure. We like to talk water drainage here in Classen.
Ours is going to be better than you.
I'm sure, I'm jealous.
Tion Sujak, Sujak Engineering. So, yes, the individual lots will drain into a private storm system. That private storm system will go to a detention pond. From the detention pond, it will be discharged at a reduced rate, similar, more agricultural, pre-development. Actually, we're taking it to the county drain in, I forget the street on the side there. So it doesn't go directly back into the existing combined system that's on Phillips Street right now. It actually goes back into the county system, kind of goes around it. The only thing that's going to go back into the public utility, stormwater-wise, is going to be the public street that we're basically installing as part of the development.
There's a difference between a detention and retention pond. Is one holds it for a while and the other one holds it
Forever.
forever?
Yeah, retention basically goes back into the ground.
Yeah.
Detention, it's outletted back into a system. Retention has to be a lot bigger. You have to have special soil conditions so that the water can drain. We're not really expecting to find those soils here.
Right. Okay. Thank you. Any further questions for the applicant? Thank you. At this point, I'll open it for public discussion. If anyone from the public has any questions, it's a little early in the game, but let's see what you want to ask.
Ron McCauley, 1008 West Selfridge. We got the same conversation here that we did at Sham. Is it a house or is it a condo? And I guess if it's called a condo, they get better zoning variances than a house zoning? I mean, what's the advantage of that, whatever that house was, be calling it a condo?
It's two words that confuse me, too. I
I
had
mean,
it in my mind a couple of minutes ago, but I think I've lost it at this point.
Okay, we need to get that answered.
Yeah.
When we're able to talk, I will address that.
Yeah.
But we're not supposed to go back and forth, so
This is very
we'll
early.
make note of that.
Very early on in the game
Okay,
here.
next thing is, these buildings are gonna have a retention pond, or is it gonna go into the Shams holding tank, retention pond?
That's what we just went through. And that'll be taken care of when we get down to the point where we haven't looked at a complete site plan yet, but all those details will spring out later. I'm saying this is a little early in the game,
I know, but
those questions. But
if they're dumping their water
Yeah.
into the Shams pond, does the Sham pond have capability to handle it?
Yeah, okay.
Okay,
Thank you.
find out what the difference between a house and a condo is.
Okay.
Good evening, Commissioners. Thank you very much for this opportunity. I also have a comment or a question about this designation as a condominium, but I think it's in a very different light. For the record, it looks like a wonderful development, and I would love to live there if I could afford to. But I categorically reject the notion that the only way you can build a house in Clawson is if it's designated as a condominium and is forced to be an HOA. Houses have been built here for many years that didn't do that. These are clearly single-family homes. They should be platted as such. Mr. Carmen, I think you've built homes like this. If you decide to vote yes for this motion, and you will effectively grant them the privilege to call it a condominium, and it may never come back here, you are requiring everybody who lives there forever to pay this extra HOA fee and their property taxes into perpetuity. It doesn't have to be this way. And one of the very nice things about Clawson is we all share a neighborhood scape, and we are all neighbors, and we all are subject to the same laws, the same tax rates. It's a fair community. I love my neighbors. I would hate for them to have to be treated differently, to have access to different services, different laws, more taxes than I do. It wouldn't be fair, and I don't think it would be necessary. So please, I'm sorry, you have to ask questions seriously about whether this is the right thing to do, because the alternative is obvious. Plat it properly, be single-family homes, be subject to all of our ordinances, all of our reviews, and they would be fine. If it was an apartment complex that had to maintain an elevator shaft or a bunch of utilities or do its own maintenance of shared roofs or something like that, I get it, But these are clearly single-family homes. And it is contemporary, maybe in some other jurisdictions, from the developer's perspective, to keep a perpetual revenue stream for them. But it's not fair to the residents. Please help keep Clausen Clausen. Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else in public? Yes.
Hello, my name is Ginny Sham, and this is my leader dog Karma, and we live at 1046 West Selfridge Boulevard. I'd like you to, in any plan that is going to be in Baker or Sham school sites, that you consider the fact of the destruction of roads with all the equipment and heavy trucks, et cetera, going in and out of those sites to demolish and build, and that the cost of repairing those roads does not come out of the bond issue that we voted on in November, or any of the citizens of Clausen's taxpayer dollars. That should be a cost that's put into the cost of the building and the constructing and demolishing. Those people should be paying for it. The owners of that stuff at the time should pay for it, not the citizens of Clausen. The second thing I would like to bring up is with the retention pond, some of you may have been around when the Vickers plant was built on Crooks across the street from Clausen. It was a much bigger retention pond than what's there now. We inherited there the Canada goose. That's going to happen here if there's a retention pond. So we have to plan for goose poop being all over the place. Just throwing this out. Consider the environmental issues for water and sewage and all that other stuff in your plan. Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else in public willing to comment?
Hi, Linda Hale, 940 West Selfridge. I know it's all early in the plan, but I agree with some of the things being said about, I don't understand why we have to have retention ponds and why we, I don't understand when you said, is this a law in Oakland County? Is it? Why can't we just have, there's houses going up. There were beautiful houses built on Bywood. And these houses also look nice. I'm really happy to see that they have attached garages and not like the Shalom property and where they want alleys and detached garages and no yards. So, but the thing is, why a retention pond? Why can't we just figure out a way to engineer where it goes into, I don't know, underground where it holds it or something similar to that, or make sure that our sewer systems can actually handle all this. It's early on in the site, and also I agree that this HOA business, we're a really small community, and it's less like Sham, all these houses, we know that they're going to be very expensive. All of our houses are. The new houses going up are very expensive, but they're individual houses that don't have HOAs. And personally, if I were looking to buy in Clausen, I'd love to have one of these houses, but would I want to pay the HOA fees for the rest of my life? No. And, I don't think that HOAs are a good idea. I do think the houses look lovely, but those are my two concerns. I would just like to make sure that there's enough green space and that if there's a way to get by these retention ponds, I would like to see that happen. And the HOA, thanks.
Thank you. Anyone else in public? Seeing none, I will then close public, and I would entertain a motion.
Can I just clarify a few things?
further
Is it okay?
discussion. Yeah.
Okay. So I wanted to say that site condominiums and homes are much alike. The state of Michigan has a law that allows builders, instead of going through years of processes of plotting out each individual parcel, they are able to go through this process much quicker with a site condo development. And they are actually by right allowed in residential areas. They are also forced to have a detention pond when building. So those are things that are mandated by the state of Michigan. You know, whether or not we love HOAs, I agree. I'm sure that if there was an easier process without an HOA, they would probably take that process on. I don't know them. But also HOAs are, once they're established, they're maintained not by them usually, they're maintained by the community of the homes that live there. So it's not, I've never heard of it being a revenue stream in that way. It's more so like, hey, we're all on one deed, one master deed, and you own 1/10 of that deed or whatever, and we all share in the upkeep of it. So it's truly just a way that the state of Michigan has put that law forward. Hopefully I explained that well. But they are by right allowed in residential and required to have a retention pond and an HOA. So hopefully that did clear up things. That's all I wanted to say. Oh, I did have a question though at the end of that. Shalom did have I'm sure you hate hearing Shalom because it's like the brother, the big brother that you know. You always compare me to him. But does this site have the brick wall that's around it or not? I didn't see it in any plans. I'm just saying Shalom did, so I wanted to see. I like the idea of it not having like a half wall all the way around.
No, I
Okay.
don't think that's proposed. Okay, yeah, no, that's
Cool,
not on the site.
great.
And I guess just for clarity going forward, is the property line to where the school district owns and where the city's property line is to the south of the DPW is kind of by the baseball diamonds, like first baseline. So if you're trying to get just a visual, if you're driving by that site, like that's roughly where it'll line up. A little bit farther north to the first baseline where the baseball diamond is at Baker right now.
The property line of
The ci-
DPW?
Yeah, the city's
Okay.
property to where the school district owns currently to where these new homes will
And
be
it goes all the
abut.
way to the actual first base, both
It-
width and depth, or?
That's just a rough estimate where it is. The property line is a little bit farther to the north, so closer to the DPW wall, but there is going to be a green space between those backyards and the DPW.
Okay.
Yeah.
Oh, and that's one other thing that was brought up, sorry, not you, but I don't think it's legal that they would be able to take their stormwater or any type of water and put it on another property that they don't own. So I can say safely that they won't be dumping their water on Shawm. They're actually going to maintain it on their site.
That's correct. The two
Okay.
projects are completely separate, so they're not going to have their water intertwined at all. I mean, until it gets to the county combined system, which at that point, that's what everyone does.
Thanks. I just want to.
Yeah, certainly.
Any further questions? Otherwise, I'll entertain a motion.
Mr. Chair, motion to approve the preliminary site condominium application for 626 Phillips.
Support.
Motion support. Are we good to go? Nobody wants to change anything? May I have roll call, please?
Ms. Redmond,
Yes.
Mr. Scott,
Yes.
Mr. Solomon,
Yes.
Mr. Tinlin,
Yes.
Mr. Carpenter,
Yes.
Mr. Fitzer,
Yes.
Mr. Cusero,
Yes.
and Mr. Nushai.
Yes.
All right, thank you.
Thank you.
So then they'll come back with some more flushed out engineering plans. I would be surprised if TN can get that done by next meeting, so it'll probably be sometime, I'm guessing March, but once we get those plans, we'll review them and bring it back to you.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you very much. I look
Thanks.
forward to seeing you soon.
Thanks.
Moving on to agenda item number 9 is consideration of the short-term rental ordinance.
Okay, so updated memo here. The main changes are that the fence thing that council objected to was removed. I beefed up the rationale near the end of the ordinance, and then item 4 on near the top of page 2 builds in some of those exemptions that we had talked about. So questions, comments, etc.
I'm sorry, where did you say that there was an exemption I thought that we had built in, and maybe I just missed it?
Yeah,
for
top
people
of
who are
page
selling-
2, item 4, A through E is those exemptions.
Oh, okay, thank you.
Yep. Yeah, questions, comments?
Sorry, can you repeat that one more time, Joe?
Top of page 2 of that memo,
Okay.
item 4,
Of
A
the
through
memo,
E.
gotcha.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yep.
Sorry.
So it's not considered a short-term rental when it's occupancy by a family member or that family member's guest without remuneration to the owner. Single-room rentals in a dwelling unit otherwise occupied by the owner. Non-owner occupancy by a house sitter during the temporary absence of the owner and the owner's family without remuneration to the owner. Occupancy by a prior owner after the sale of the dwelling unit under a rental agreement following closing, and occupancy by a representative trustee or guardian of an estate. Those are the exemptions.
Have we got anything illegal in here, Mr. Attorney? We're all
That's
in
good to
bounds, okay. And you think this might please mayor and council?
We'll find out, right?
So you're going to want us to...
Again, we're making a recommendation to
Yes.
do inspections.
That's
They can
correct.
choose to do that or
Yes.
not. I hate the thought of it coming back here because we're making a recommendation. It's not,
Right, yeah, no, I
They can take all
understand.
or parts or
Right.
none,
Yeah.
or, yeah.
If they don't like it, they can write their own. You don't need a vote on this, right? We'll just consider
We
it?
should set a hearing on it if we want to send it back to council.
We hold the hearing here.
Yeah.
Public?
So it'll be the first, second meeting in February, right? Okay, yeah, second meeting in February, which is February,
Bless you.
yeah, it's February 25th.
What is it, 25th?
Yes.
February 25.
So I have a question, just not even about this, but sometimes you guys say we should make a motion for public hearing and sometimes not so much. I'm just curious, is there specific or like instances where it has to be by motion, or is this just kind of a friendly, hey, let's kind of do this, set it publicly?
Anytime that you're amending your ordinance, you should always have a motion
Amending
to set a public
an
hearing.
ordinance,
Yeah,
okay.
yeah.
I move to approve the short-term rental ordinance as presented and schedule a public hearing for February 25th meeting.
Support.
Any additions, subtractions, changes? Seeing none, roll call, please.
Thank you.
Mr. Scott?
yes.
Mr. Solomon?
Yes.
Mr. Tinlin?
Yes.
Mr. Carpenter?
Yes.
Mr. Fitzer?
Yes.
Mr. Kucera?
Yes.
Mr. Nushai?
Yes.
And Ms. Redmond?
Yes.
All right, thank you.
Thank you. Agenda item number 10 is a planner's report. Do we have anything on the planner's report?
Nothing further.
Nothing on planners. Move on to staff report and training opportunities.
All right, first off, just wanted to say thank you to those of you that could attend the open house earlier today. I was pretty excited to see that we had, roughly 20 people show up, which I know it doesn't sound like a lot, but for these type of open houses, it's kind of tough to get people to come out of the house to attend and provide public feedback. But I would say every single person that attended, either Joe or I or a planning commission member that was there, had a pretty good conversation about what we're proposing in the master plan, got some good feedback. So I think what the next step would be is we're going to bring the draft master plan back to you at the next planning commission meeting. go through it, one time, kind of the high-level stuff, if there's any potential modifications and the rationale for those changes, and then if it's satisfactory to the Planning Commission, recommend City Council go forward with the public hearing period, which is 63 days. So if the schedule lines up, we should have the master plan updated in early May. We'll be a little bit liberal on that. The other main update I want to have is in the staff report, I included an economic development report for 2024. And so that's something new that the city did this year to highlight the new businesses that joined our community, and then also some major developments that we've seen, and also took some time to look into what we have coming in 2025. And so, this is the first time the city has done this. I think it's something that we're going to continue growing and expanding on, just so we can give another opportunity for our new business owners to share with the community what they do and who they are, and so we can highlight the development activity going on in the city as well. We continue to try and provide some updates to the Development of Clawson webpage to keep the community informed as well. Joe and I are working on some fun little pieces that I think will really do a lot for the community and trying to find new things going on. One of those is a GIS map that you can click on a parcel, and if there's a site plan for it or a new business, you'd be able to find out what exactly they are. We don't have a timeline on that. We're working with the Giffords-Webster team to try and roll that out. So, we're going to push forward as fast as possible with that. Outside of that, I have no really specific updates, but would be happy to answer any questions.
How often do you put this out? Planned, like ideally?
So that report itself is going to be a yearly one, so it'll probably be released every January.
Okay.
And then obviously on the website that we have, we'll make regular updates there, and we're also going to have a little piece in the Clawson Pulse, the triennial newsletter that we have, related towards economic development activity in downtown and the city as a whole. So we're just trying to really expand what we do and communicating with the residents and the community, what's going on, so they know, what new shops open up, what's going on at this building that's been vacant for a few years. And that was one thing when I first started in this role, that you had to go to a planning commission packet. And so, we've made baby steps to get there, and I'm really excited to see what we can do this year to continue moving forward in that.
I love that map. I think Troy has something similar to that where
Yes.
you can,
Yeah.
and it's great. You can just pop it all up. It gives you all the zoning, and it's great. Yeah, I like it a lot.
So we're going to take something like that and see what we can do, and maybe do a couple different overlays with businesses and things like that.
Cool.
Yeah.
Just a general question. So, 172 West 14 Mile. So they requested to do their development in phases on this this update you have. It looks like are they going forward with the full thing now?
No, they're still doing their phased approach, and so their engineering plans are tentatively approved. And they're just waiting to hear back from the county on their soil erosion permit. When I spoke to Mike last, our engineer from AW, he was expecting to get that back in a few weeks. And so once we get that back, we'll have a pre-construction meeting, and then you'll see some activity, and then probably get some questions on what's going on that site.
Cool.
Yeah.
Well, Amazing Floor still has never come in to see us, but I'm glad they're on your newsletter.
Right. They didn't have any exterior.
But they
site
were a
plans.
change of use.
I think we've determined that the use did not change the impact to the site.
Oh, it didn't?
No.
Oh, okay.
Because it's
Oh, I
a
didn't
flooring
know
company.
that.
It was like a piano repair, and so like the change of use was similar, and we determined that it was.
Well, they didn't do anything to the exterior of that?
I think they cleaned up some pretty rough landscaping and added a sign up there, but as
Oh,
far as I
it
know, there
looks
wasn't.
much different than I thought, so.
But again,
Cool.
if they were repainting it or anything, that falls under not site plan review worthy.
Mhm.
So
Yeah.
unless something major has changed that we're not aware of.
I don't know, it looks nice, though.
Yeah.
It does, yeah.
It's kind of cool to see. We've had a couple long-term buildings that have been vacant for a long time, recently take new ownership, and I think it's really lightening up, the city. So it's exciting.
Yeah, Rochester needs a little brightening up, huh?
Yes. All right. Any other questions?
Anything else? Thank you.
Thank you.
Agenda item number 12 is legal update.
Good evening again. Last time I was here, you had asked me with respect to marijuana in the city, and I was a little cryptic, I'm afraid. So we can finally share a little more information because there's been some development. So as you may be aware, the city received a lawsuit from Jars Cannabis challenging the charter amendment that was passed by the voters of the city of Clawson. And that matter went, we were challenged in the Oakland County Circuit Court, which is where we typically go for a case like this. In the meantime, that case, our case, was placed on a stay for a period of time. The reason for the stay was there was a series of cases starting with Farmington Hills and a couple other communities that dealt with a similar issue to us. And those cases had preceded us in time and had gone through both the circuit court phase as well as the Court of Appeals phase. In the Court of Appeals, the court issued a ruling where it held that the charter amendments in Farmington Hills and other cities, similar to the charter amendment that was proposed and passed in the city of Clawson, was an improper way to amend a charter. Marijuana, the court opined, in general terms, would have been more appropriately handled by way of an ordinance amendment. Therefore, in that case, they found for the communities, in favor of the communities. The other party in the Farmington Hills case and others appealed to the Supreme Court while our case in Clawson was pending. That appeal was considered by the Supreme Court and eventually decided not to grant certiorari, which means they left the Court of Appeals case standing and that opinion being the law of the land as far as Michigan is concerned. All that being stated, that means that our case is impacted by the Court of Appeals case, which means that realistically, even though the case has not ended yet, there is no way for the plaintiffs, no way for anybody to be able to have marijuana in the city. So for all intents and purposes, it seems that the charter amendments, though it passed, it won't take effect. I anticipate that the case against the city will be resolved over the next few days, probably. And I think that addresses the question that was posed by one or more of you, that what is going to happen? Do we need to take up marijuana ordinances and so on and so forth? The answer being, for the time being, no, you don't have to. Okay. Barring any questions.
So the Supreme Court said that they're going to follow the appeals process, you
No,
said?
by not taking up the case at all, they just simply left the Court of Appeal. The Court of Appeals opinion becomes law. That's.
Oh, and then your judge was like, we're going to follow the precedents that they do? Is that kind of how it worked out?
By definition, they have to, but the judge,
Oh, okay.
it just so happened that the judge that we landed was the same judge that granted the Farmington Hills case temporary restraining order, which was eventually taken up to the Court of Appeals and taken on to the Supreme Court. So, of course, she would, as you can imagine, she would agree with her own prior opinion.
So does that mean that each individual city, they have the right to pass an ordinance to allow or disallow?
Yeah, excellent question. Yes, actually, as a matter of fact, that remains the case still, based on the MRTMA. So it remains still the case. And it is a really good question because of this follow-up, which is that I think this is not an issue that is going to go away in Clawson, obviously. There's interest just on account of the community where we're located, the downtown. There's a lot of benefit to being in Clawson. So this issue is going to keep rearing its head, and I imagine it may be wise to consider, as Joe Tangari would agree, it would be wise to consider an ordinance so that you can place your imprimatur and your limitations on what can and should be done, as opposed to constantly facing this every 2 years. You would get a new proposed now ordinance amendment as opposed to a charter amendment. I think there's some wisdom in considering that.
Could you provide us a list of what we can and cannot do and then get it on our agenda so we can discuss it?
I'm sorry, one more time?
Could you give us a list of what we can and cannot do, and then we could put it on our agenda and have open discussion on it?
Absolutely, absolutely. We'd be happy to. We'll work together. Joe, we can probably work together on something.
No hurry, but I think we should.
We'll give you, the larger outline, and then you can go from there as to your pleasure. Absolutely.
Very good. Thank you.
Thank you.
If there's any other comments, otherwise I'll entertain a motion to adjourn.
Motion to adjourn, Mr. Chair.
Second.
Motion, support, roll call, please.
Mr. Solomon?
Yes.
Mr. Tinlin?
Yes.
Mr. Carpenter?
Yes.
Mr. Fitzer?
Yes.
Mr. Kucera?
Yes.
Mr. Nushai? Ms. Redmond?
Yes.
Mr. Scott?
Yes.
Thank you.
Thank you, everyone.
All right.
Oh, this is a Chromebook, but it, oh. I think it's. Oh, the touchscreen of it?